Hey everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Football Sideline, where I interview people that eat, breathe, and sleep football. So for today's guest, we have SoccerDave, who is currently on TikTok, Instagram, and I'm sure on a bunch of other platforms. So tell us a little about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to just share. Like you said, we eat, breathe, and sleep,
Yeah,
eat everything football.
yeah.
So excited to just share the little bit that I've lived and, for everybody out there listening. But yeah, so my journey kind of starts. I was born in Dallas, Texas, United States. And my family, we had a unique situation. My dad, with his job, actually with the religious church, um, being Christians, we moved to Argentina. My dad got connected through different churches, and so that's what took us to Argentina. At the age of 5, I got to grow up in Argentina. I spent 10 years there. That's where I learned to eat, breathe, sleep, everything football, and just had a huge passion with spending as much time with the ball as possible. Very fortunate to play at the different academies that I played at, and really overseas in different countries outside of the US, what it is, it's soccer schools. Not necessarily where you
Oh,
also
okay.
do education school, but it's a lot of just training, not teams. That's what you do really up until the age of like 9, 10, 11. And then if you show qualities, then you get into playing, club ball and academy ball and stuff like that. So I just grew up in a positive environment with no pressure, just have fun, everything related around the ball. And so, yeah, so I did that in Argentina. We came back um, to Dallas, Texas. I did high school there, played high school soccer, high school football, and showed qualities that I could, pursue this thing and see what could come out of it. So, long story short, I ended up signing my first pro contract in Bolivia at the age of 19. Played second division there a couple seasons. Then, we'll get into this a little bit more through the podcast, but certain issues, whether it was attitude or injuries or just being young, dumb, um, prideful, stuff like that, took me out of where I was on contract there. They resigned my contract, came back to the States, tried to make it here, ended up playing college ball. I did have to talk to the NCAA about that because I had just come back from playing professionally. So that was kind of a whole dilemma, but they gave me a couple years to play pro ball where I played Division II NCAA at Dallas Baptist University. Played there 3 seasons. Got all kinds of NCAA international or national awards, and then tried to play pro again. Ended up playing professionally in Spain after a couple other contracts in the USL and MLS didn't work out. I also got married in the middle of that. So it's just a lot of stuff, that
Yeah,
either kind of kept me out of the game or broke my pursuit. You know what I mean? Took my attention, split my
yeah,
focus. Not that anything's bad. Getting married, I have two beautiful
yeah,
daughters
for
now, great
sure.
family. It's not a negative thing.
Yeah,
It's just split focus.
just like
You know?
life gets to you. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
and
responsibilities, everything.
exactly, exactly. And we'll get into. I think some of that plays into kind of mental, not necessarily mental health, but concentration and focus, goals,
Yeah.
ambitions, pursuits, stuff like that starts kind of coming into the picture. But yes, I was very, very blessed. I give thanks to God every day that He allowed me the possibility to play in Europe, in Spain, towards the end when I didn't think I was ever going to play professionally again. One of my coaches and agents calls me up and says, "Hey, you look fit. You look like you're back at the game. You want to go and see what happens?" I said, "Yeah." So, got on a flight, went over there, tried out for 2 teams, ended up making one of them in the fourth division, first division of regional ball. But they're in Burgos in the north part of Spain, played a season there. And then we had visa issues and then COVID hit. So nothing was ever able to get fixed there. And that was now 2.5 years ago. And, you know, so yeah.
Wow, that's a really interesting story. If I can put your attention on when you said you went to Argentina and then you came here and played high school soccer, how was the transition? Because I'm sure like in Argentina, that was like very good for your development. And then coming into America? Was that like a breeze for you, like the level of play?
So yes and no. I think technically, and soccer IQ, understanding the game,
Yeah,
the speed of play. I think there it was physically, intensity. It was not a breeze. The American way of soccer, of football, is very intense and physical, and so it's something that I had to adapt to. I was a very
yeah,
technical player. You start thinking kind of like, the Riquelme is out there. That's why I grew up watching. Just, foot on the ball at all times. And that didn't fly here sometimes. You get bodied off.
yeah,
Not necessarily speed of play, but the speed of the players. They're just faster, physical, and that's what, American soccer is known for. And that's what they stick by. And it was an adjustment that I had to make.
yeah. That's totally understandable. One more thing is that you said you were in a soccer school. So what is a soccer school like? How does it work compared to like normal schools here in the US and Canada?
Yeah. So when I refer to a soccer school, it's not necessarily education. It's where I would go in the afternoon after I would go to school, and it would be it's more of a think of like a training program, a training academy that is not associated
Okay.
with a team. So it's just somewhere where I train. Now I train. I don't know if you ever heard of Martin Palermo, the all-time most goal scorer for Boca Juniors in the history of Boca Juniors. His He opened up a soccer school, a
Oh,
training
okay.
academy per se, and so I got to grow up in that because it just happened to be in the same city where we were living. So that's where I kind of learned the technical in and outs, the IQ side of the game. But it wasn't revolved around wins and losses. It was revolved around, hey, come have a good time and you're gonna learn. And I
Okay.
think that from a development perspective, when I look at my game now and how I coach now and how I train kids now, that had a huge impact on how I view the game, not just the game, but the mentality around the game. Like we should have fun
Yeah,
playing
for
this.
sure.
It's a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Emphasis on game. We
yeah,
play games so that we can have fun, and I think that that's important. I am a firm believer that you'll have more fun the better you are. No one likes to play things that they're bad at.
yeah, for sure.
So, it's important to train hard and learn and get good because I think that
Yeah,
keeps you in it, keeps you
yeah.
motivated.
I'm really glad you said that because like even as kids, like the reason we like it is because we have so much fun. And as you go into these like more intense levels, of course you're gonna have to do things you don't like. Like I don't like doing intense running sessions for like every like a couple of practices to get my fitness up. Like it's not something I enjoy, but I get that as part of the process to become better.
Right.
So there I kind of enjoy like if I do this, then I'm gonna get better because of it. So yeah, I think
No, for sure.
yeah, trying to keeping it fun is very important. There's obviously some aspects of it that you can't keep fun, like what I just said. But this fallacy that it has to be like you have to hate all of it, and like it can't be a game anymore. It's like a job, which a lot of pros actually mention. I think Gareth Bale said it. Yeah, this fallacy around that kind of theory is really bad, and I kind of really disagree with it.
Well, I'll put a complete different perspective on it.
Okay.
Dating and marriage, right? You date so that you can marry.
Yeah.
Marriage is completely different than dating. There's aspects of it, but I think that most marriages stay intact if you can continue to date within the
Okay.
marriage, right? And when times get tough, you remember the good times. So that's why I go back to soccer needs to be fun initially, and you need to be able to have as much fun as
Yeah.
possible because then when it gets difficult and all these parts of the game are implemented that aren't fun, right? You remember the fun, and that's why you stay in it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
fun develops into passion, develops into you know something that you just need, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like no other relationship. It's the same concept. It's just
Yeah.
bred in whatever different industry, right? And so if you can relate it even, like your relationship with your significant other, it's no different, right? There's aspects of
Sure.
marriage that are super hard, right? But when those happen and those pop up, you remember the good, you still work through it, you understand you have to do it, it's part of it.
Yeah.
But you remember how much fun you had, that helps you get through, and it helps you find little ways to continue to have fun and continue to date. And I think that
Yeah.
that's important for a soccer player to continue
Yeah.
to in essence, date the game, right?
Yeah. So I don't have any any kind of concrete experiences with that, unfortunately. But I see where you're coming from, like dating to marriage, and like how it becomes more of a commitment, just like in soccer, but it's still fun.
Right.
Yeah, good explanation on that. So going back to the level difference, you said you played in Bolivia, right? And in Spain, if I'm not wrong.
Mhm.
And I asked you this on DMs on Instagram, which is like you almost played like the good La Liga teams in Spain, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the they're lower, like they're B teams.
Yeah.
Some of them were in our division. Yeah.
So at that level, you were already pro, and then the next level was the La Liga teams. So what's the level difference between your level, like your division and level, and the top tiers in Spain?
Yeah. Obviously, the amount of time, income, not just for the players, but income within the organization.
Yeah.
Right. You're able to do more practice times, facilities, stuff like that. Now, I would say, speaking from an individual player perspective, people might think I'm crazy on this. Not a lot. Not a lot. I think that there was maybe an opportunity here or there at a younger age that allowed a player the exposure. And then whether they capitalized on it or not, right? You could be a phenomenal player and have a terrible trial,
Yeah, for
right? Or a
sure.
phenomenal player and even you could be a hell of a player and even have a bad year, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happened that was the year that eyes were on you, and then they never come back, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, like I said, people may call me crazy. I don't think there's that much of a difference. I think the difference starts, the gap really starts getting created the longer you're at a higher level.
Yeah.
Because the longer you're at a higher level, the hours rack up. I mean, we were training 3 nights a week, for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we were getting to the facility, waiting for it to be open. Then we get there, quickly change, and then the coach is like, "All right, I got to go home." Whereas, say La Liga, the facility's open 24/7. You can go in there, put your hours in, and so I think the gap really starts once you're either there or you're not. I don't think. I mean, I maybe had 3, 4 teammates that could have played in La Liga if they were fit, if they were motivated. But quality of
Yeah.
play, I don't. The gap starts when you're there. That's where you start
Yeah.
creating the gap.
I think I completely agree, and I get that because, as you said, like they have a better quality of training. They have more income come in, so they have more time to train. They have better equipment to train with, so naturally they're gonna be a better team. I completely agree with that, and I think that goes back to what you were saying, like when you went from Argentina to the United States, like where people see the difference is like saying, oh, that like US is trash and stuff compared to like the Europe teams. I think that doesn't apply to an individual standpoint, like individual players, but because of the teams and how they structured the teams in Europe, that's where the difference comes in for the football.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. And again, the gap, again, talking about when the gap is created, you maybe take somebody like, say Weston McKennie, right? Playing with Juve, he's playing right there on Ronaldo's left, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. Um, you start thinking about something like that. Well, he, left a little earlier, several years ago. He didn't stay in the US till he was 19, 20. He's already been over there.
yeah,
And so that he started separating himself from players here. So you start getting those hours in. But I think that, yeah, from a team perspective, can you move in such a way that a high level coach is asking?
yeah,
Can you read the game at a certain way that Ronaldo's looking at you and saying, "Bro, you gotta, don't you know your
yeah,
movement? If this, then that, right?"
yeah,
And so having that level of IQ and stuff.
yeah, for
But I
sure.
think that stuff, I think like anything, it can be developed. But at the highest level, there's no patience.
Yeah, I
There's no
agree.
patience. There's only an expectation. That's it.
Yeah, like at the high level, it's like there's no room for mistake. If you make a mistake, the ball's gone. It's on the other team. Now you have to go back and defend.
Yeah, or not even that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you even add in promotion relegation of the U.S. game.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true.
You have one bad year, you may spend the next 3 or 4 getting
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
there's there's no, we're not going to wait for a player to develop.
yeah,
We are a team in first division. We can't wait. You know what I mean? We have to win now. So, you know, yeah, it's different.
yeah. And to what you just said, actually, Matt Shelton kind of said the same thing. Where like the hardest part about being pro is staying at that level of being pro, which is really interesting, because you make one mistake and boom, you're back on the level before, and then that's it.
Yeah, yeah. Individually, yeah. Team. I was speaking team, but absolutely individually, 100%.
Yeah. So you said you played Division 2 soccer, which is pretty good. There's a division above, but that's still pretty good. For people that want to go into like Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 schools, whatever, do you have any tips for those people?
The recruitment process starts early. So if you're not being recruited as a freshman or a sophomore, by the time you're a junior in high school, maybe start looking at D2s,
Yeah,
and it's a tough concept. Or this is a difficult thing for players to understand and be okay with. Be okay with redshirting. You know, the redshirt concept means you're going to go and you're not going to play a single minute your first year, but you don't get it counted against your eligibility. You'll still get 4 years to play after
yeah,
that. But who wants to do that? Who wants to go from being the top player at their club, top player at their high school, to sitting out a year?
yeah,
No one. But
true.
even and the truth of the matter is, in order for people to relate to what I'm saying, and I know we have people listening from all over, the world, Europe, Canada, but in the US, I like to talk to players and parents in like a basketball or football, American football lingo, because they understand that. If you Nobody says anything about the top basketball recruit going into University of Kentucky or Duke in redshirt. Everybody's like, oh yeah, good choice,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
But we're not preaching that to our kids who play soccer. Coaches aren't preaching that to their soccer players. And I'm over here like, why not? If it's the same process, it's just a different sport. Then preach the
Yeah,
process. You know, um, because then that's it. You're not going to climb up a level once you're
yeah,
there. I mean,
yeah, for
scholarships are
sure.
already gone. Then you're starting a year
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
So
that
I
kind that
think
for
there's
sure
something to
makes
be said about
sense.
that.
Yeah, like you went from a higher level and you expect to just be out for the first minute and just play. Like it's kind of logic that you have to stay off and like reflect on what you need to do to become part of the starting 11.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, if you have anything to say.
Yeah. No, the idea is, if your ceiling mentally is college ball, then you'll settle for D3 to start,
That's
right?
true.
Because your eyes are, I have to play college ball. I have to play. I have to play. It's not, hey, let me play the long game on this. I may learn more. I mean, it's kind of like the whole concept. Would you rather be a sub on Real Madrid or starting for, I don't know, uh, third division League One team in
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, because there's promotion relegation and I'm still getting paid pretty well. Maybe I do start, in League One,
yeah,
but you're telling me, bro. I mean, I get to train every day with the guys at
yeah, like
Real.
a
I don't,
top level.
I don't know, So, but it's different there because the guy's still getting paid and stuff in League One. But you bring it back to college ball, bro. If you stay, the guy in League One still has a chance to promote his team, still has a chance to have a good season. You have a great season playing D3, D2 ball. No one cares, but you're already on the D1. You sacrifice a year, and then you play your true freshman year. Then you play your sophomore. By the time you're a junior, you still have your junior and senior year, and you may have a breakout season. Now you get
Yeah,
drafted,
that's a good point.
right? So it's having enough patience. And the reason why I talk about it so confidently is because I didn't have patience. I mentioned when I was 19 signing Bolivia and then having a fallout there because I wasn't patient. I'm 19, 20 years old, man. What am I worried about?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, chill, David. It's okay. There was contract negotiations about a partnership between the club I was playing for and a second division team in Spain at the time. I could have been in Spain at 21 instead of having to wait till I was 27. But
Yeah.
I was impatient. I wanted everything now.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think patience, not only in soccer, but in other aspects of your life, like even the life expectancy in like the US and other places are rising. Like there's people living to 100 now, and
Mhm.
saying like you have to have your life figured out at 22 or at 25, I think it's just crazy. Like someone that I watch a lot and that I really aspire to be like is Gary Vee. He's like an entrepreneur, a very
Love Gary
successful
Vee. Yeah.
one, yeah. And he's like, you could do everything wrong throughout your whole 20s. You could be 30 and then you could still have time to be very, very successful in whatever it is you do. And
Yeah.
I think that really, really reflects on soccer. Like, there's people that think like, oh, I have to get recruited at 18, or else that's it. Like, I'm done. I can't go pro anymore. And then more and more now, we're seeing players like Matt Sheldon and some others like saying like they started playing pro at like 24, 25 years old, and that's really good because it gives us a lot of hope. So yeah, you nailed it. Like, patience is very important in terms of like all aspects of life.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think there still needs to be reality checks,
Yeah,
maybe for some people. I can only speak on myself. I always knew the talent was there, the drive was there. I can get in let's go pro mode, pretty quick. And then I can, within 3 months, I'm ready to train and play with anybody. I can do that. I've done it before. I've done it three different times, right? I can do it. But, it's sorry about that.
it's all right.
Having having the reality checks to say, okay, one, am I talented enough? Because if you're not, I
Yeah,
don't know. You have to be somewhat relevant already, somewhat within conversations of people that make decisions, or have been around at least a little bit long enough to 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 be able to make a scene, right? Whether you go to a trial or here, and that's the thing that I have a player that I'm mentoring right now. He's like, man, I've already been to 3 trials, and I'm like, okay, and bro, I've been to 13 trials.
yeah,
I mean, you got to stay relevant because eventually one guy will see another guy and they'll remember you from a year ago
yeah,
and they'll be like, man, this guy's still at it. And hopefully you've been getting better. And hopefully you were already one of the most talented guys. They maybe passed up on you then, but they'll take you then. But the question is, were you still there? Were you still relevant?
yeah.
Right.
So
So,
basically, what you're saying is like make connections, like uh, how can I say this? Like keep networking, make connections, put yourself out there, like email coaches, go to trials, and do whatever you can to become pro.
and stay consistent. Stay
Yeah, for sure.
consistent. You know, if you really think if you're honest with yourself and you know you have what it takes, okay, how consistent are you going to be? Right? Are you only going to give it a year? Are you going to give it 2 years? Are you going to give it 5 years? Are you going to give it right? And yeah, life happens, and that's one of the things that happened
Yeah,
in my story is a lot of stuff happens, and but are you going to push through it? Are you going to settle for something else? And I don't mean settle as in like a negative sense. I mean like just a change, or are you just gonna, stick it out through everything that life throws at you? Everything that comes with growing up.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah. That's a really good
staying
point.
relevant, finding consistency, you know, and then like I said, you have to be good at it. That'll be the
Yeah, for
mistake if
sure.
you're not
Yeah, having the realistic point of view is definitely important, and also like I just want to point this out. Like when me and you like say like stay patient, like keep trying at it. When I say stay patient, it doesn't mean like don't take your training seriously. Be like, oh, I have like 5 more years, just whatever. I'll just like, take like 3 weeks off. No, like keep that hard work there, but also remember that you have a lot of time, like not to make yourself anxious and stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. I got a buddy of mine. He was supposed to go to Germany right before COVID. Or no, sorry, he was in Germany before
Okay.
COVID. And went to 3 trials. There was a lot of the same scouts at all 3 of them, and so they got to evaluate him time and time again. So even though they passed up on him on one, they saw him at the other one. They were like, "Yo, this kid's now at this one." So, and that plays into their eval too. Like, oh, this kid wants to get in, just go to one and done, right? Well, he ended up getting signed, came home, COVID hit, so he couldn't go back.
Wow.
So he's been training, and over the last 6 months, it's like, okay, we're gonna open, we're gonna bring in, we're gonna fly you out, and then it's like, oh no, sorry, we can't. And it's like, okay, hey, no, we can't. Yes, we can. No, we can't. And the dude's just training. He's just staying ready. He's just staying ready.
That's good.
He's being patient, and yes, anxiety sets in. Yes, the mental side and the anguish and the being annoyed with the situation. And some days he's like, you know what, I don't know. And I've been
Yeah.
telling him, look, you gotta, the moment you stop, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. For
You
sure.
don't know if they're gonna call you back or not,
Yeah.
but are you gonna be ready when they do?
Yeah. That's
You
true.
know?
I think in that
So
situation, it's really hard, and that goes for like any kind of player. Like even like after 18, keep training by yourself, like waiting for the opportunity to arise, and keeping that positive mindset, not being like, what if none of this work out and I just wasted like 3 years of my life just training for nothing? But instead of that, saying, what if this does work out and I just go straight to like a La Liga team? Not saying that's realistic because it's not what I like. It's good to have that positive outlook on life and soccer.
yeah. Well, I had a friend of mine, a couple years, maybe 4 years ago now. He was debating whether or not he was playing a lot of cash tournaments, in the I don't know if that's a thing in Canada or not, but there's a
Actually,
ton
that's
of
that's
like,
kind of funny because I was looking for some in Canada, but I couldn't find any, especially with COVID. So yeah,
yeah, there's a ton, man, throughout the U.S.,
that's good.
California, Texas, and my buddy, he's known now, kind of within the whole U.S. now. He's so connected. He plays, $500 here, $2,000 here. They fly him on private jets. These
Wow,
guys have so much
that's
money,
crazy.
and all they do is manage amateur tournaments or amateur teams, you know. But that goes to tell you, we really need promotion relegation in this country. There's enough talent and enough money to make it happen.
That's
It's just
true.
being boycotted at the top. But
Yeah,
anyway, that's a separate conversation.
yeah, yeah,
Um, the he's when he was kind of in that, he goes, man, I kind of want to see where I can go with this as opposed to, and I mean, he's flying on private jets. You know what I mean? Like people don't just do that. They're having them flown out, paying. You know what I mean? And I said, you need to see if there's an opportunity for you to go live alone, grind it out, not have private jets, not have money, and experience that because something may happen, something may not, but you can always say you did. You know.
yeah.
And he went, he played in Iceland, and played a season out there, came back, is now still doing the whole cash tournament thing and kind of living the life doing it. But he went, you know what I mean?
For
And
sure.
I think that's important. I think there's a lot of players. I mean, we mentioned D1, D2 college ball. Have you seen those locker rooms? I mean, they buy you two cleats at the beginning of preseason. The uniforms are state of the art. Campus is awesome. You have, if you're on scholarship, you have free rent. We can get into the women, the girls. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
dude, what you're gonna tell me you're gonna trade all that for a chance to go play, third division in Australia or Iceland and have two or three roommates in a two-bedroom apartment and be hungry some nights and the club owes you money or you're on a goal bonus and you haven't scored in 3 weeks and you're technically a pro, because you're playing pro, but a lower division. And so, but there's always a chance, right? Honestly, why would they do that? They already have everything they
yeah,
need. You know what I mean? And so that when you start talking about the mental uh, side of things, about sacrifice, about opportunity, um, it's almost like if everything's already given to you already, the moment you don't have it, now I'm gonna go back. You know,
yeah,
I thought this isn't what I expected.
yeah,
And it's like, dude, I mean, I don't know. It's different.
yeah, for sure. You make a really good point there. Like, yeah, like you said, you have like all these good options for you in university. Like they pay for your rent. You have two cleats. You get all the merchandise. you get to live your life to the fullest there, and then you go like abroad to try to become pro, and then you realize, wow, I give all of that up for this, and that requires like a lot of mental toughness. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because you can definitely make a pro that way, and if you do make it, it's good, but it also requires a lot of mental toughness to get through that part of going like below before going up again.
Yeah, one of my experiences when I was in Bolivia, my visa was expiring, and so I had to, the whole thing where you got to leave the country so that you can come back in. Well, I figured I'd go down to Argentina, just cross the border, get on a bus, cross the border, and get right back in. This is kind of we can make it a funny story. I ended up forgetting one of my documents, so I ended up stranded in Argentina on the border for 2 nights.
Wow.
I didn't have anything with me. I had to figure out how to fax. I only took enough money literally for like a day. I was supposed to get on a bus, cross the border, and cross right back in. And yeah, I mean, that was a crazy experience. Trying not to get robbed, just hugging my backpack. I'm playing pro at the moment. I'm telling these guards like, yo, y'all got to let me back in. I got to play on Sunday. It's like Thursday, right? I'm like, I got to play on Sunday. And experiences like that, I wouldn't trade for anything. And when you start talking mental toughness, I think I understand the whole mental health thing. I'm very sensitive to it. It's not something I struggle with personally. I'm not going to sit here and say why others do or don't or anything, but I think that one of the reasons why I don't is I just accept kind of everything that comes, but I accept it with a tough mind. I don't accept it as, oh, this is it, I'm screwed. I take it as, oh, this is what's happening. How do I get through it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good mindset to have.
Or yeah, this is a roadblock, not the end of the road.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like so, you can't do anything about it, but how are you gonna react, basically?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the whole concept, it's a roadblock. It's not the end of the road.
Yeah.
Right. I think those are two completely separate things. And I think being able to distinguish those two things really helps when you hit certain walls, right? Hey, it's just a block. It's not the end.
Yeah.
So that's what I've tried to do. Some days are easier to do that than others.
For sure.
But I think it's something that has helped me personally.
Yeah.
To see it as, okay, if I really believe this is the road I'm supposed to be on, and as long as it doesn't end, if the road is still there, yes, this came up, this roadblock, okay, how do we maneuver and keep going? So
yeah,
staying positive,
Yeah, that's a good point you made. And if we can go back to that, like college ball or going abroad, if a player is 18 and he decides he wants to go pro, now I get it, there's like different factors that coincide with this, but if an 18-year-old wants to go pro, what would you recommend for them, either like the college route or going to play abroad?
If they have not already received D1 offers, and you want to go pro, you have to go abroad. You have to.
Okay.
Unless you have a secure red shirt spot or a spot on one of the best D2 teams in the country. You know what I mean? But if not, it's just like the UPSL and the NASL leagues and all that. Once you're in, you're in. Good job. You're not going anywhere. And I say that heavily. It can happen. It's set up so that it can happen. That's the whole point. But I haven't seen it happen.
Like the odds are against you.
So yeah, heavily against you.
So if we can talk more about that, I myself wasn't really like, I got into the D1 game really late, like contacting college coaches and stuff. And I'm currently in Canada, so Division 1, Division 2 isn't that big here. especially this, just like the soccer culture isn't really that big. It's even smaller than the US, I would say. I
Mm.
think a big part of this is grinding your way up. Like maybe the first year you don't go D1, but like this year you go to a good university and here you get that playing experience, you pop off, then you go to the US, you go D1, and then from there, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, if you have the right contact,
Yeah.
that can maybe get you in or something like that. But um, I haven't seen a lot of players go from D2 college ball to a D1 college ball. I haven't seen that a lot.
Okay.
Maybe a handful out of hundreds. And even then, maybe you redshirt a year,
Yeah, you're right.
right? So there's still a lot of sacrifice to be made. If you're willing to make that sacrifice and hold your head high and stay positive through it and not lose focus and be patient, like we talked about, then yeah, you know,
Yeah.
um, because most people aren't or need more of a feeling of opportunity, which I believe abroad provides because there is promotion relegation. Um, I think I think stories like that, grinding just to get in to the system and then with opportunity from there, I think there's more of that happening overseas than there is in the US.
That's
And
true.
actually, I don't think I know there is.
Yeah.
I mean, while I was playing in Spain, there was a guy that was playing third division in can't remember what city, maybe in the city of Valencia or something, but he was playing third division, so he wasn't playing for Valencia, right? He ended up having at the age of 32 had a blowout season, like scored something ridiculous, like 27 goals,
At the age of
right?
32,
Yes,
that's
at the age of
huge.
32, scored like, and he's been relevant, right? He's been relevant. He's been in the game,
Yeah.
you know, and because he was still in there, all of a sudden at the age of 32 has a blowout season, and Atletico Bilbao gives him a contract
That's crazy. Does he
playing
still
in
play
La
for them?
Liga. I don't. I think he may have signed a 2 year, so it would be coming to a close now. I saw it on the news, and it was like a big story,
That's crazy.
on the sports news over there. But yeah, it's something that I saw, and seeing that I was 27 playing over there, just got into the system over there, and I was like, okay, all I have to do is stay. All I
Yeah.
have to do is stay relevant, keep playing, keep balling, be patient, and who knows? I don't get that same feeling in the US.
Yeah. That's fair for sure because as we said, there definitely is more opportunities abroad. So that would make sense that it's easier to go from like the bottom to the top.
Yeah,
And
I
from
don't
your
see I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see a 32-year-old having a breakout season in the
yeah, for
UPSL all of
sure.
a sudden get an MLS
Yeah.
contract. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What inspires me about your friend is the age, like 32. Like even when we talked about this before, like there's players at 18 that they don't get a contract and they just hang up their boots, they leave the game. But your friend grinded it throughout and stayed relevant. And then at 32, he had a amazing season and boom, he's in the league now. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Staying relevant, and staying relevant means you continue to be there. You may not have a breakout season, but you're there, right?
Yeah,
So, and it's hard. It's hard to do that. Not just what Matt Sheldon said about staying there. I think he was talking more from a perspective of taking care of your body, playing at a high level day in
yeah,
and
for
day out.
sure.
But that's what you have to do at the highest level. At the lower
Yeah,
level, where you can get away with not doing that, it's so easy to just choose something else.
yeah,
You know, and so it's so difficult to stay patient and relevant when you are in lower leagues.
yeah, for
It's the
sure.
most difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it requires a lot of mental toughness, and it's so easy to give up. To give up, like I don't want this. I'll just go back home. It's way more comfortable, and you're already out of your comfort zone. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but what position did you play or do you play right now?
yeah. So I played offensive mid, or CDM, defensive mid.
Okay.
I debuted in Spain as a center back, and that was the most anxious 3 games of my life. I did not. I mean, I'm used to making a mistake and having somebody behind me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or missing a goal or missing an assist, but then you just create another one.
yeah, yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
to play
Yeah,
center
there's no
back,
room for mistakes back there.
no, and I was not about that. I did it. I did
Yeah.
it. We only gave up 1 goal those 3 games, and I played well, but I played out of the back a couple times. You know, dribbled past forwards a couple times, and the coach was not having it. I was very fortunate that him, instead of getting too mad at me to take me out, he ended up. I played 90 minutes all 3 of those games, and then the next game I was a defensive mid,
That's good.
and I played there for 5 games, and then the rest of my time in Spain, I was blessed to be given the number 10. I was the offensive mid, basically captain of the team.
So you were basically like a central attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for people that are playing that position right now and are going to like a higher level?
Yes. Create as many opportunities as possible. Be dangerous. I think a lot of times, we like to say those things for like the number 9s or the wingers. I think that it's hard for a 9 to be dangerous when he's just trying to get his foot on the ball. Everybody else needs to be dangerous so that the 9 can then just tap it in, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
we
true.
have to be okay. We have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with creating, losing the ball, but then trying to create another one and giving a 1-2, and the 7 messing up with the winger or whatever. And I have to be okay with working 2, 3, 4 times as hard as the 9, and the 9 scoring 2, 3 goals, and let's go, let's do it again. You know what I mean? So I think from a mental perspective and a soccer IQ perspective, you have to try, as a number 10, especially, is you have to try to make the biggest difference without maybe making the biggest difference.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about that, maybe from like a defensive mid perspective, we think about Mascherano when he was at, Liverpool, maybe, or Conte. You know what I mean? We think about those guys, and it's like, dude, they're making the biggest difference on the field right now. Just literally, at the end of the day, they're just doing their job. So when you start specifying jobs on the field, I think the number 10's job is, hey, be free to create and be dangerous. You know, anytime I've ever coached a team, if I had a kid that I deemed as talented enough to play that position a certain way, I would just say, hey, look, just create,
Yeah, just do what you gotta do.
just create and be dangerous. He's called the creator, for a reason. Create.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to be able to have the ability, the mental creativity to take a situation where there's nothing and turn it into something. We've been watching the Euros, this whole month. If you take a team like Spain, for example, where several of the games now, of course, they won 5-0 that one game, but I feel like when I watch them play, nobody's willing to step outside of the game.
Yeah.
No one's willing to step outside of the game plan and say, you know what? Everything looks closed right now. I am going to bust, this door's closed, that door's closed. Yeah, but there's a window right there. I'm going to dive through that window and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid.
For sure.
It's almost like, hey, you do it. Nah, you do it. Nah, you do it. And it's like, you know what? I'll do it. So, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. Neither have the other 75 passes we just did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that, because like they always have the highest position stats, but they don't really make anything out of it. They just like pass it around. Hopefully something will happen.
And I'm not saying that's wrong.
For sure.
From a coaching and a tactical perspective, it's important to have that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just as important. I'm not going to say more important, but maybe it is, to have 1 or 2 guys that at any given moment can just do something.
Yeah.
In Spanish, we say desequilibrar, unbalanced, right? When everything seems balanced, everybody it's like, I'm going to do something on my own and just, let's see what happens. And it's hard to defend. I think that that's where players really start separating themselves, when you start thinking about, Neymar, Ronaldinho, Messi, Ronaldo, even Ozil back in the day, Messi,
Yeah, for
Riquelme,
sure.
these guys that they are a little bit above Modric every now and then, right? I think Modric is right there with like Xavi, but even Xavi and Iniesta every now and then it's like, oh, there's nowhere to go. Whoa, how did they get out of that?
Yeah,
And having those moments, especially if you're going to play 10, you have to have two or three of those a game.
yeah. And like, how do you build that? Is that just from experience at a high level and just trying things every game, just trying to be risky and stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of now you have to be able to do anything and everything whenever you want, however you want with the ball, right? So if you're not comfortable enough on the ball, cheeky enough to be able to, do things, and you have to train all those, right? And Neymar doesn't wake up one day and able to do a rainbow. You're gonna tell me when he was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, he wasn't rainbowing over his dog, rainbowing over his mom, rainbowing over his friend, rainbowing, you know,
Yeah,
and people like to say, oh, they were just playing, they played the game. Yeah, but I guarantee you, even if there wasn't a game going on 11v11, Neymar was rainbowing something, a chair. He was
yeah,
rainbowing you know what I mean? He was working on it,
yeah, for sure.
And so you have to train those parts of your game as well. Um, I'll never forget growing up, I would, upset I upset my sister. I would meg her in the hallway or throw the ball at her, hit her, you know what I mean? And then it's like, give me that ball. Well, now I'm running away from my sister who calls my other sister. So now there's two defenders, right, running after me trying to get the ball, and I'm trying to hold them off, and they're pulling my jersey and pulling my hair and slide tackling me and trying to get the ball, and I got to try to get out of there. All that, what? That's what the Neymars, with the Messi,
Yeah,
that's what they were doing. When, and call it training, call it playing, call it whatever you want, but they were spending time with that ball, and they were figuring things out in the middle of chaos. So then when chaos hits in the game, it's nothing you've never had to see
yeah,
before. It's just different. It just looks different,
yeah. Like,
So,
yeah,
but you have to have the mentality to answer your question. You have to have the mentality of, one, I can, but you only know you can if you train it, right?
yeah,
But then the freedom, and I think that more coaches need to give certain special players more freedom, because if they are special and if you see them they're special, you have to allow them to become that special as they mature, not take it away.
yeah, for sure. Like you said, like it's just repetition. Like the more you get into tight spaces, the more you do this, the easier it gets when you're in an actual game. Because
Yeah,
you're just building off of the muscle memory.
exactly.
So
So
now we've already kind of talked about this, but we're focusing more on like the mental side of the game and how important it is relating to like going pro. So like, do you have anything to say about that?
yes, now again, the way I view the mental side, mental toughness, is you just have to keep going. I, I keep it simple. I know that for a lot of people it's not, but the more you can simplify it, I think the easier time you'll have in your head. If there's a lot of mental health awareness and stuff like that. And again, I'll never talk negatively about that. I understand it. Some of it I don't, but I get that people go through it. But I think if you can just, in a way, like I said earlier, it's a roadblock, not the end of the road. Then you learn how to overcome, and the more you overcome, you're training just like a
Yeah,
train overcoming,
yeah, yeah,
right? And so you get more comfortable with problems. You get more comfortable with situations, and you learn to understand that they're there, to understand that they're gonna happen. You don't freak out, um, But I think, even mental toughness. I don't think nothing happens if you don't train properly, and
yeah,
that's what we were talking about earlier as well. You have to have the reality check and be real with yourself. If you are good enough, then be good enough to overcome also. I know that kind of answers it. It kind of doesn't.
No, I mean
Maybe if you
it's
ask me a
definitely a
more
good
specific
explanation.
question around it, yeah, maybe if you offer a
Yeah.
more specific question, I'll be able to get into other things. But
If I
it's
can add
that's
on,
for
yeah,
me, it's a broad subject.
yeah, for sure.
Um, because I think everything is in it, and if you can't be okay with that, and maybe you're not tough enough, and
Yeah,
it's a reality. There's times in my life as a player I was not tough. I wasn't mentally tough enough. So I think maybe there were things that could have helped me be, or maybe not. Maybe not. Um, but you learn to take things in stride, and you fall and you get back up, and you keep going. I don't,
yeah, for sure. One thing you mentioned is like the mental toughness, like getting through it, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, like getting yourself into those uncomfortable situations. The more you do it, the more you get comfortable with them, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, for
And
sure.
what I was trying to, you told me to be more specific, which I agree. I could have been more specific. What I was trying to hit with you is like the mental side of the game, like when you play, like having that confidence with you and how that can affect your game. Because we've seen it with players like Timo Werner this season. I'm not saying he's a bad player. There are arguments that could be made that he still supports Chelsea even though he can't finish to save his life. Um, but we've seen that huge confidence drop in him and some other players as he went from Germany to Chelsea. So, what do you have to say to that? Like, how can one increase their confidence and keep their confidence at that level?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that at the highest level, it's hard to talk about, and I don't know, you know, hopefully this podcast reaches players at the highest level. That'd be pretty cool for both
That'd
of
be
us.
nice.
But I think we're more so talking to the ones that aren't playing in stadiums
Yeah,
filled with 50,000 people or anything. We're talking to the guys that are playing academy ball right now, or college ball, and maybe there's no fans, and so I can't necessarily speak right now on the pressures and the immense
yeah,
that
for sure.
those guys are going through. But I can say to everybody else, like, if you're putting in the work, if you're getting your reps, if you can put that ball top bends because you've done it multiple times, you know, if you can beat anybody in a one-on-one because you've done it multiple times, if you can read the game because you've played at a high level for a long time, if you can deal with different coaches yelling at you or being soft with you or whatever because you've already had a dozen different coaches treat you a dozen different ways, if you've been through all that, have enough confidence in yourself to know who you are. You're the one that's lived all that. You're the one
Yeah,
that's done all that, right? So have the self-respect first for yourself, then the confidence, right? And then, you know, own up to it, right? Have the self-respect, have the self-confidence, and then own it. Own who you are. Own what you've done.
yeah,
Don't call it a fluke. It's not a fluke if you've done it multiple times. You've been playing this game for over a decade. It's not a fluke, right? That
yeah,
you are that good, that you are where you are. So you had a bad game. You had a bad 3 games. You've had a bad season. Is that who you are? Or
yeah,
was that the season? Does that make
for
sense?
sure. Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
I think that one of the reasons why players at the top level can have bad seasons and stay relevant, or have a bad 3 years and then come back and have a breakout season, is because while everybody was saying, "Oh, they're washed up. Oh, he is this. Oh, he will never be the same. Oh, they were like, the hell with that. I know who I am. I know what I can do.
Yeah,
I'm doing it every freaking day. I'm just not doing it where you can see it. And I hate myself for it right now. And it's frustrating, but it's not who I am.
yeah,
Right. And so, and maybe I've had luck, man. Maybe I've just been tremendously blessed to have good people around me my whole life, um, that just spoke an immense amount of positivity and truth in my life, that I truly believe the things that I just said. But I know that there's people that haven't been so blessed or as fortunate or lucky to have a good surrounding people around them. And maybe they really do believe that they are bad, or they are, not as good, or they're a fluke, and to that, I would say the same way we have to self-evaluate for negative things, self-evaluate for the positive. Don't just look at, the negatives, look at the positive. And if you can count more positives, if you are where you are because you're good, if you're playing D1 ball, if you're playing academy ball, wherever you are, there's probably a reason. Don't go tearing yourself down all of a sudden because you've had a bad 2 games, or a bad season. That's not who you are. That's something that's happening right now, and it sucks, and maybe it's just, they used to go in and now they're hitting the post.
Yeah.
That's hella frustrating, but why can I sit there and spend, 30, 40 minutes trying to make it a TikTok, and then so I can post the one that actually went in, as opposed to quitting 10 minutes in when they're not. I hit the post and I hit the crossbar and then I missed the little ring thing by this much. And then, and it's like, well, why did I keep going until the 40th minute when I finally hit it? Because I freaking know I can do it. It's just a matter of time. It's so frustrating, but I know I can do it. And that's just the difference. That's the mental click difference from somebody who keeps going and then on the 40th minute hits it, or somebody we talk game like somebody who keeps going and on the third year ends up having their breakout season, but because they stayed with it, they were patient, they stayed relevant, they ended up getting it. And somebody that 2 years in, 1 year before they would have had the breakout season says, oh, I guess I'm just not cut out for it. And it's like, what do you mean you're not cut out for it? You're there.
Yeah.
Nobody. So I think not self-sabotaging is important, right? If you're not going to be there, have somebody tell you you're not going to be there. Don't tell yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what you're trying to say is have that self-belief, because you've already gone through everything, and it's not a fluke. So just have that self-belief in yourself that you can do it. And something else they touched on is like other people's opinion, like even at the pro level, like people saying, oh, Ronaldo's washed up and stuff, and you see him come back and he scores like three goals against like Atletico, which was like years ago. I'm not talking about the Euros right now.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
Like not caring about other people's opinion is huge, because I think where that gets confusing is when you're shitting on yourself, you're like, oh, this is a fluke. I'm not made for this. I'll never be anything in this sport. I don't think that's your voice. And I talked about this in my first podcast with Dr. Bobaki, is that's not your own voice. I think that's someone else's voice that got in your head, and now that's their thoughts imprinting on your own vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the same way that, that's why it's important to have self-positive talk.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of times when I'm playing or whatever, if I get super frustrated or it's just not my day, I'll do this sometimes. It's something that I do out loud to myself. I will say, come on, David, you can do this. And I'll say that.
Yeah.
Because it's true. So it's not like I'm lying to myself, right? And then two voices can't talk at the same time, right?
That's a good point.
So if you have that one voice, just shout over it, Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you're washed up. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me today? No. Not the, it's frustrating. It's not working, but I know I can do it. I've done it before.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like everyone has their different way to deal with it, and whatever works for whatever works for anyone. Like you have your way, and other people have their way. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. If we can talk more about this last point, and then we're done, is what could you have done better? And going to that, like giving advice to people that are going to play pro, like what could you have done better in your pro career?
I think what I could have done better is everything I've told others to do on this podcast. Be patient and stay relevant. As I mentioned, a lot of things happened in my life. Some I couldn't control, others I could control, but it was a split focus. and those things and decisions that I made didn't allow me to stay relevant. And because of that, I would fall off, and then I'd have to work my way back to become relevant. And then I'd fall off again, and I have to work back to become relevant. Because I'm talented, I could do that. But if had I not been as talented, I never would have been able to get back in it and then get back in it, right? My talent is what is allowing me to keep getting back in it, and my mindset. But if not, I would have been done a long time ago, So first thing I would say, just stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. If it's really what you want, and if there's certain things that split focus or things you have to do it, find a way to stick with it while you're doing the other stuff. One of the guys I love to mention all the time, anytime I talk about this stuff, is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant found a way to be the best athlete and to be a great dad. He found a way. Now, not everybody can rent a helicopter, right? Or buy a helicopter. Not everyone can do that. But the point is, he found a way through other things that happened to stay there. And I think that's very important. That's something that I could have done better. And then for everybody else, man, the more hours you put in training with a core group of guys, and the higher up you want to go, the lonelier it gets. Because especially when you're starting out like high school ball, I was one of 3 guys. We lost in the Texas state championship game. So we were the second best high school in all of Texas. Okay. That doesn't mean a lot, but for a high schooler, that's a lot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
On that high school team, the whole team, including the freshmen that were there. So a roster of, say, 28, 30 guys. 7, less than 10 for sure, played college ball. 2 of us played college ball through graduating. 1 of us went pro. Me. Okay. So what does that mean? It gets lonely. It gets lonely. The higher you want to go, the lonelier it gets. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with doing the things that no one else wants to do, because they're not going to make it.
For sure. Yeah.
And you have to compete. Once you start getting where the others want to make it, this is interesting. This is important. Once you start getting where it's lonely, but there's a core group of guys, maybe you found 10 guys, you're 20 years old, you found 10 guys that really, really want it. Well, apply the law of 1%. If only 1% make it, then even if you found a core group of 100 guys that are training together, well, you better compete, because only one of you is making it.
Yeah, for sure.
So having that mentality is something that I want to challenge everybody, whether you're doing a passing pattern, whether you're doing 1v1s, whether you're juggling, whether you're working on a finishing practice, whatever it is, have that mindset. Look around and be like, man, probably only one of us that's going to make it.
Yeah.
So I know he really wants to, because we train together, and he's really competitive. And I know he really wants to, because he's in the gym and he's putting the work in. And, he was at 6 a.m. when I got there at 6:30. So I know he went. So, man, is it going to be me? I don't know. So having that recognition of the whole concept of 1%. Well, damn, man. Yeah. Everybody wants to be that 1%. But look around. So do they. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be him or you? And so when you compete with that in mind. It could be him. And if it's him, that means it's not you.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I was fortunate and blessed that it was me. But I guarantee you that it was because I had this freaking mindset. I wasn't going to let it be somebody else. 2 can't go. It's not 2%.
It's 1%, yeah.
It's 1%. 2 can't go.
For sure.
So who's going? I think having that level of mental toughness, competitiveness, intensity, you start separating yourself. and that's what it is, you know.
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. So if I can touch on this, is like it gets lonely at the top, and like you just have to push yourself harder than others. It's like the basic stuff. There's no secret to it.
Nope.
Work the harder you have the more chance of making it. I mean, of course, like talent plays in it, luck plays in it a little, what you do outside of the pitch plays in it, but mostly it's like how much work are you putting in? How much do you want it? How bad do you want it?
Yep.
Tim Grover, the trainer of Kobe and MJ, I'm not sure if you know him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's like he has all these basketball players, which also relates to soccer. He has all these basketball players, which is like I'll do anything to get to where you're at. And Tim Grover's like, well, what's your definition of anything? Like my definition of anything is different from your definition of anything.
Yeah.
That's where the gap starts to widen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Widening, we mentioned that earlier, widening the gap, you know.
Yeah.
You got to start separating yourself, you know. And there's a reason why, I mean, you know, we say lonely, you know. You're going to tell me Ronaldo relates to his teammates and his teammates relate to him? No, because he's the only one on the diet he's on. He's the only one going to bed when he needs to go to bed. He's freak. You didn't tell me that man ain't lonely. He can't relate to anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
He can't relate, and no one can relate to him. Not even the guy playing on his right, who's also a starter. He doesn't even relate, right? But that's why Ronaldo from the elite is still separated.
For sure.
Right? So you separate yourself. I'm not saying be Ronaldo when you're in high school.
Yeah.
I'm just saying separate yourself from your teammates.
Yeah, have that mentality.
Then separate yourselves from the teammates at the next level. Then one of the things, you know, and I'll be vulnerable right now. One of the things that upsets me about my career is I never got to see how far I could go without separating myself. I was always able to separate myself. I play high school ball, I separate myself. I play college ball, I separate myself. I play in Bolivia, I separate myself. I played even in Argentina growing up, I separate myself. I play UPSL, I separate myself. I play, you know, wherever I play, I separate myself. I go play in Spain, I separate myself. Within 5 weeks, I go from a guy who tried out, play, you know, then it gets a starting position playing center right, and then gets handed captain band number 10, you know, 10 jersey. I separated myself. I wanted to see how far I could go until I was just another guy. And I never got to do that. And that kills me every day. It kills me every day. I never got to just be another guy. But my dad told me this the other day. I had the same conversation with my dad. And he said, son, you never would have been just another guy. You would have found a way to separate yourself. Because I have that mindset. I don't stop the mindset because I get there. Everywhere I go, I bring that mindset.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I can say to your cause is it's definitely not easy to be like the best you can ever be. And that's why a lot of people don't go for it. Another thing Tim Grover said is like this interviewer was asking him, like, why doesn't everyone like try to achieve the best version of themselves? It's because it's hard. It's not easy. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna be the best version of myself I can be, and then the next day you give up. Like, it's really not that easy.
Yeah, it's true.
And one thing it's a little different from the topic, but you mentioned it once, is, and I've seen this a lot, I just wanted to bring your thoughts on it, is like I see people like waking up early to go work out like 6 a.m. They come back and they go work out again. And I've been meaning to ask you, what do you think about that? Like, if let's have two people, the first person wakes up at 6 a.m., they work out for 2 hours, they come home, and then at 2 p.m. they work out again 2 hours. That's 4 hours of training. And then the second person, let's say, wakes up at 9:30, they go work out at 12 to 2, and then they take a little break, and then from 6 to 8 they work out again. So in that scenario, does it differ when you wake up and you actually get the work done, or no?
From a physical standpoint, I don't know. And even the science behind a mental standpoint, I don't know. Now, from a motivated and a sacrifice standpoint, I think if I wake up at 6 and I know you wake up at 9, I have an edge on you. Even if I don't, I think I do.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
just
sure.
because I think I do, I now do. Right? Because our mind convinces us of things. And then now again, you have to be able to back it up with talent. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say it's kind of like the whole, have you heard like the like take a cold shower as opposed to a hot shower?
Yeah.
And literally the only reason is like, yeah, it's good for your body and stuff. But the biggest reason is mentally you're getting uncomfortable. Right. And so if waking up at 9 is easy, you haven't done anything difficult.
For sure.
Waking up at 6 is difficult. Well, now if you do that for a week, even if the other guy is, worked out just as much, played just as much, trained just as much, the reality is, you were up at 6.
Yeah.
And so it would give me a mental edge, right? Knowing that I was up at 6 and I was putting the work in, right? Even if we're putting the exact same work in, and I'm really not technically bridging a gap between you and I, because we're doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
But mentally, I got you beat. Because you weren't up at 6. I was.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're gonna tell me that in the 91st minute that doesn't play a factor, that you haven't been uncomfortable and now you're uncomfortable because you're losing 1-0 in the 91st minute, and you don't know how to deal with that uncomfort, and life should be easy. And I know I'm we're taking something specific and I'm making it broad, but you kind of see the concept.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm down 1-0 in the 91st minute, but I was up at freaking 6, dude. So I'm gonna go out and get a goal.
Yeah.
So that's man. I think that there's a mental and an emotional edge to doing the latter.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think I kind of agree with that. Like, it just means that you want it more. Like
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
You're good. So yeah, that's basically it. I don't have anything else to cover, and yeah. Thank you for being my podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm honored that I have a pro player. I'm just asking stuff to him and he's answering. It's really good.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, and thanks for having me on, man. Again,
No problem.
I love what you're doing on the socials, man, and super excited and happy for you.
Thanks. And where can they contact you? Find you anywhere?
SoccerDave. Spell soccer with 3 C's. SoccerDave. I'm gonna do that. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. I think that's it. But yeah, I'm right there. Right. So appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's it.